So Poland is rolling out its big new e-invoicing system, KSeF. And while a lot of businesses are kind of aware that deadlines are coming, here's the thing. The real story, and honestly, the real risk, is hiding in the details. Let's break down what that actually means for you.
So you might think you're on top of this, right? You've got the main dates circled on your calendar. But the real question is, are you truly prepared for the massive operational shift this whole thing requires? Because this is about way more than just flicking a switch to electronic invoices.
And that's really the heart of what we're talking about today. If you're only focused on when you have to send e-invoices, you're missing the bigger picture. It's actually a huge strategic mistake. The rules that are going to trip you up are the ones that affect your entire business process from day one.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the official timeline, then we're going to uncover this universal obligation that, believe me, changes everything. After that, we'll break down some critical operational rules you just have to know, and we'll finish up with a strategic action plan to get you ready.
Okay, let's dive right in. First up, the official timeline for when businesses need to start issuing invoices through the KSeF system. This is the part most people kind of know about.
So at a glance, this looks like a pretty standard phased rollout. It kicks off February 1st, 2026 for the big guys, the large taxpayers with turnover over 200 million Polish zloty. Then, 2 months later, April 1st, it's mandatory for all other VAT-registered businesses. And finally, the smallest businesses, the micro-entrepreneurs, they get a bit more time, until January 1st, 2027. Seems straightforward, right? But here's the kicker, and you really need to hear this. Focusing only on these sending deadlines is probably the single biggest misunderstanding of this entire mandate.
Okay, now for what is, without a doubt, the most important rule in this entire thing. This isn't about when you send invoices. It's about when you must be ready to receive them.
Mark this date down, February 1st, 2026. This is the date. This is when every single business, I don't care about your size, your turnover, none of that matters. You have to have your systems ready to receive and process purchase invoices through KSeF. No exceptions, no extensions. This one's set in stone.
And this slide just lays it all out, crystal clear. On the left, you see these staggered deadlines for sending invoices, which is what everyone talks about. But on the right, that's the one that matters, the universal deadline for receiving them. So let's connect the dots here. Let's say you're a medium-sized business. Your deadline to send isn't until April 2026, but your biggest supplier, they're a large taxpayer. They have to start sending you KSeF invoices on February 1st. And if your accounts payable system isn't ready to catch them, you can't process them. You can't pay your supplier. I mean, that's a massive operational headache waiting to happen.
All right, so now that we've hammered home that big universal deadline, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty operational rules. These are the details that are really going to shape your day-to-day work.
So the government built in a pretty handy feature called Offline 24 mode. Basically, it lets you issue an invoice even if your internet is down or you can't connect to the system. But, and this is a big bug, there's a catch. That invoice is only legally valid after you upload it to KSeF for validation, and you have to do it by the end of the very next day. If you miss that window, poof, the invoice is legally invalid.
Now, it's also really important to know that this isn't for every single invoice. There are some key exemptions. For instance, if you're invoicing a regular consumer, B2C, or you're invoicing an international company that doesn't have a Polish tax ID, a NIP, then you can stick to the old ways, like sending a PDF or even a paper invoice.
And for those of you dealing with international trade, there's a really specific but super useful exemption for self-billing. Basically, if a foreign company without a Polish tax ID is involved in a self-billing deal, either as the buyer or the seller, that whole transaction is exempt from KSeF. This gives some much-needed flexibility for those complex global supply chains. And you gotta remember, the system itself isn't static. It's gonna evolve. For example, the authentication method is gonna shift from tokens to more secure certificates by 2027. Every single invoice, whether you issue it online or offline, is going to need a standard QR code on it. And yeah, you can add attachments, but don't go crazy. They're capped at 3 megs apiece. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the rules, the deadlines, the gotchas, but knowing all that is one thing. Turning it into an actual plan, that's what really matters. This is about shifting your mindset from just being compliant to being truly ready.
So here's a simple 4-step action plan to get you started. 1. Get a detailed project roadmap together and make sure that February 1st receiving deadline is front and center. 2. Analyze all your invoicing data and map it to what KSeF requires so you can spot any gaps. 3. You have to update your internal AP and AR processes. And number 4, and please don't skip this one, start talking to your suppliers and contractors now. Get everyone on the same page.
Look, a change this big usually means you need the right tech to back you up.
For example, when you're looking at solutions, you want to see things like native integration with your ERP system, say SAP. You want something that aligns with a clean core strategy, which basically means it won't mess up your core systems. It should handle all the data complexity without a bunch of clunky add-ons. And maybe most importantly, you need a solution that automatically updates itself, because you know these regulations are going to keep changing.
All right, so as we wrap this up, let's circle back to the main point we started with. The whole conversation has been a little bit misplaced. The question you should be asking yourself isn't about your company's deadline to send invoices. It's really this. Come February 1st, 2026, your biggest suppliers will be sending you invoices through KSeF. They have no choice. So the real question you need to ask yourself is, are your systems going to be ready to catch them, process them, and actually pay them on time?